Hey guys, welcome back to the Dot Wave podcast. I think this is actually episode 10. I don't think the last one was. I think we were wrong about that.
Oh, man.
Anyway, I don't pay attention.
So close, but so far.
Yeah, I don't really pay attention. Sorry we couldn't be with you guys last week. I was busy. I just started tracking an album with the band, and I had to get room treatment up. So as you can see behind, you can see some panels here. I got a whole lot more up front, all
Much
behind.
needed, huh?
Oh, for sure. Bass traps. The room sounds amazing. It's pretty close to being dead now, which is nice.
Nice. Is it like a night and day difference?
Oh, huge. I mean, with just the bass traps up in the corners, I couldn't really tell, but as soon as I got the rest of the panels on, especially the first reflection panels, I would sit down at my desk and just snap my fingers and be like, oh shit. And you hear my voice and it's like, whoa, this is really good sounding. So
Great. That's exciting, man.
Absolutely. It took an entire week because I've never done a project like this before. I had to, so I bought 30 panels off a guy. He was selling them for pretty cheap. So I got extremely lucky. I think
Killer deal.
These Owens Corning panels, and I wanted to make bass traps. So I ended up taking two of the panels apart and I put some Gorilla Glue on them, and I would just stick the material together and just let it sit, put it back together, take the fabric from the two panels that I dismantled, wrap that around it, cut it where it needed to go, hot glue it back on, right? It came out really good. I mean, it looks
cool.
Great. The harder part was my ceilings are not exactly 8 feet tall. They're a bit shorter. So I had to cut, the top bass traps because I'm doing ceiling, floor to ceiling. I had to cut the top. Oh, wow.
You're going all out.
Oh, all out. I had to cut the top bass traps shorter. So it was a bit of a pain in the ass, but I managed to get it done.
What did you use to cut the material?
I just used a knife, just a really sharp serrated knife.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've kind of wondered that before because it's a weird material, not totally dense.
Yeah.
But also not totally soft.
Yeah. It's not a knife I would use for food, but
I got you. Something like a box cutter kind of thing or something, or just a knife, I suppose.
Just a big. I ordered a serrated knife off of Amazon. I just ordered.
Oh, cool.
I just typed in sharp knife and it came up. And I'm like, yeah, that works.
Perfect.
They recommend a saw. I'm like, well, it's close to a saw. It's a knife.
Yeah. Hey, it worked.
Hey, it worked.
It did the thing.
Yeah.
Dope.
I think the bass traps may be less than a 1/4 inch off from each other in terms of height. So I got it almost perfect.
That's damn close.
Close enough to where I can't fret about it, right? Especially for a DIY project. But yeah, I got the panels up, bass traps up. That just took a while. They were dusty. I had to vacuum them off, and that took hours because there was so many of them, and they were so gross. But
had they just been sitting for a while before you got your hands on them?
I think they were sitting in a storage unit for a while. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that'll happen. Were they covered with material? Did they have a material on them that was dusty, or was it the actual panel?
Yeah. Oh, if it was just the actual fiberglass, I don't even know if there would have been any saving that.
Yeah, that'd have been all messed up.
No, it has Guilford of Maine fabric, so really high quality, panels.
Awesome.
He bought them from Home Depot, and we looked them up, or I looked them up, and it was $230 for two of them. I was like, holy shit.
Damn.
And then he was selling, 30 panels for $1,000. So that's $33 a panel. I'm like, ooh, that is...
Dude, that's insane.
I immediately knew because I've been thinking about doing DIY rock wool panels. And when I realized that in order to DIY the panels, it would only be $3 less than just buying these. I'm like, this is too good. That's so much extra labor that I don't have to do. I'll gladly pay basically only $90 extra to get all the material already put together pretty much. Bass traps I had to do myself, but
that's all right, dude. It's still worth it. I mean,
it turned
33 a panel.
Turned out really well.
Good.
The rest of the panels are in the live room. I have I was going to count them, but it doesn't even really matter. I don't know why. I'm very happy with it. Something that's important with acoustic treatment. Well, I guess we can just talk about the different types of materials you can use.
Totally.
A lot of people nowadays are using rock wool safe and sound, which I almost used, but it's a very soft material and it bends and stuff, So in order to use it, you have to create wooden frames for it. So it's very time consuming to put that together. Then there's things
total pain.
And there's things like Corning 703, which is rigid, very easy to work with. You have some of those, don't you? You have some Corning.
That's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's cool stuff. And I think mine are either 703 or 705. I'm not sure exactly. I looked it up because I researched this stuff a lot. I'm like, is this going to be okay?
Yeah.
And it seems like people have built studios using all of this material. So any of this really works quite well.
I don't know if I asked you this before, but what really is the difference between 703 and 05?
I think 703, a little bit of density, but I think 703 is more rigid, and this is like semi-rigid. So it's
Gotcha.
Just a tiny bit differently. I think the NRC rating, I think they call it, is slightly different, but it's such a slight, tenth of a decimal point that it's who cares? It sounds good. I was a little skeptical, but like whatever. I put it up and it sounds really fucking good. And
yeah. Does what you need. That's how I felt about mine. Like I probably should have researched what it was that I was buying, but I saw panels.
The good shit.
Yep. And I just grabbed them and I went. And I, granted, didn't use anything fancy to calculate where I'm putting them, but the difference is there. It made a big old difference.
Huge, yeah. Well,
worth it.
Just because I've researched it a lot, there is a science to putting this stuff up, and you can get super in depth with it, or you can do it, at a basic level like I did, like kind of like acoustic treatment for dummies. Like, no, I didn't even clap with this stuff. That's a little bit more basic than what I was gonna say, but the basic, the gist of what you want is you want your corners trapped. I can only trap these front two corners because, as you can see back here, this corner has a big fucking like beam. And it like sticks out. It's not really a beam or something. It's like the wall juts out. I can't fit a trap there. Yeah. And then the other corner has my door, so that's not trappable. But the two corners behind my desks were absolutely trappable. So from the floor to ceiling, that shit's trapped now. And it makes a huge difference in bass response.
Have you tried mixing in there yet?
I've done a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I've just been listening to a lot of music, just trying to get used to the space, and it's tighter. Things are more defined now. There's not as much like random mud, so I don't have to guess as much. Behind my monitors, there's 3 panels just all the way here. And the way my room's built, there's actually these deep windows behind these panels. They're like 9 inches deep, and I actually already had them stuffed with 9 inches of rock wool. So I basically have bass traps behind my my monitors as well.
Oh, there we go.
So the bass is managed fairly nicely now. But the other important thing that I wanted to mention to you is if you don't have a lot of panels, I think the second most important thing other than trapping is first reflection points. So immediately to your left and right from your mix position, having panels there to capture the first reflections from your monitors. That made a huge difference in just like reducing that flutter. It was just amazing. Did. Yeah.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. Do you have that as well?
A lot more concise. What's that?
Do you have that as well? Do you have first reflection?
I do.
Yeah, my man.
I've got 2 to my left behind my monitors and computer screen, and then I have some like acoustic treatment curtains that I put up because there's also a window, and I didn't think to stuff it with anything. And then I've got these dinky little bass traps. They're like 3 inches wide and they're inch thick with the ridges that are on them.
Yeah.
And then 2 panels on one side and 3 going to the right, just because I had an odd number of panels because I messed one up.
Yeah, I had foam bass traps for a while, and they're not useless. They do something, right? Like I could hear that they were making it sound better, but was it actually controlling bass? That's, probably not. Was it controlling the mid-range more? Yeah, it was definitely absorbing something.
I feel like they're just too small.
There's not enough material.
Material's very weird, very cheap.
Not dense enough. There's not enough material to really do anything. I've got bare minimum bass traps, honestly. Like it's 4 inches of the material, which is the bare minimum for trapping bass. In an ideal world, I would have like 9 inches to a foot of the material.
Yeah, some of these wedges are massive.
Huge, yeah, and it makes a huge difference, but I just don't have the space for it, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So it is what it is, you just...
Would it be taking up the same amount of space if you did get a wedge? That went like into the corner of the wall?
Yeah, although I've seen, kind of varying... I wasn't really able to figure out which one was better than that. You know what I mean? Like...
Because you got the space behind yours too, so that kind of like doubles up the action that it's doing.
I don't know if it doubles it up in bass traps, actually. I'm not really sure, because there's not like an air gap. There's space behind it, but there's not a gap. Like it's sitting on the wall, like perpendicular to the wall. But where my other panels, yeah, there is like, these panels are 2 inches. There's about 2 inches of air behind them. And
Cool.
yeah, and that makes them work.
That's said to help.
That makes them work twice as well. I've seen, the data on that, and it quite literally absorbs almost 100% more mid-range frequencies. Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
very, very much worth it. Pain in the ass. You have to, I used wood to mount it to the drywall, and then use some impaling brackets on there, so I could just push the board on. If I wanted to, I could just go on and grab the board and just gently kind of pull it off. It's not going anywhere. It's solid, but you can just quite literally pull it off there and then stick it back on.
That's cool.
Yeah, same with the bass
I wish I
traps.
would have known about those.
Useful, yeah. How'd you end up doing it?
Oh, I wrapped mine in some Walmart fabric. I got some cool colors that I feel like would accent the room well.
Sure.
And then I got some really intense strips of Velcro, and I just Velcroed them to the wall. So I just run behind it with the piece of cardboard to pull them off.
Yeah.
But they're flat against the wall. I didn't even really know about the spacing at the time. I'd see other people spacing theirs, but I kind of thought like maybe that was just a weird hanging method at the time because I had no clue.
Yeah.
So I just threw mine up flat and just went for it. And granted, it makes a difference, but now I'm kind of reevaluating what I can do.
Yeah,
with the hangers that you have.
If you already have panels, a better investment than just buying more at this point would just be quite simply, spend $20 at Home Depot, get them to cut some wood for you, and then mount them on your walls.
Yep, that'd be amazing.
However thick the panels are, just get wood that's something I learned about wood is that they don't cut it exactly to size. It says it's 2 inches and it's really like 1.5 inches.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's fucking annoying.
Weird.
Well, from what I understand, when they dry wood, it shrinks, right? So when they're getting all the moisture out of it, it shrinks down. They're measuring it before they dried it, which is just slightly annoying. If I actually wanted exactly 2-inch wood strips, I would have to like buy just a big chunk of wood and cut it myself, and I'm not doing that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Weird. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, me neither. I looked it up, and there was a class action lawsuit recently against Home Depot for that.
No kidding. A lawsuit?
It got thrown out. The federal court threw it out.
Oh, wow.
Something along the lines of like, these are the government approved standards for wood measurement. Like, so it just is what it is.
What a trip.
It is misleading to consumers. I mean, contractors already know this stuff, but to just a random consumer, if you market something as 2 by 4 inches and it's not that, that's confusing.
Yeah, you're expecting 2 by 4.
Yeah, when I got it, it was like 1.5 by 3.5. It's not.
It was the same thing when I got the door to my studio. I was going for like 32 by 80, but all doors, I guess, are like by the 1/2 inch or something like that, or at least the size door that I was getting. It's just called a wedge, and they're always like 31.5 by like 81.5. So my door is because I feel like this wall that separates me from my living room was put in after.
Yeah.
And it's a little smaller, so it is a very tightly fit door. We made it work, and it took some cardboard to prop it up because the whole wall's kind of tilted a little.
Yeah, you do what you gotta fucking do. You do what you gotta do, my man.
Yeah. I mean, totally worth it. It's shut, no animals in here. It's ultimate privacy, I feel like.
Yeah. My room's fairly level, believe it or not.
What's that?
Even though this house is an old Baltimore house, I did have to use a leveler, and it looks like they did a good job constructing this place. It's level.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
That's a plus. Definitely.
It does feel good, yeah.
It's nice to know your house isn't crooked and the whole thing's kind of leaning to the left.
Oh man, it's already this house is old as shit. I mean, it's been refurbished, but like I imagine over the next 100 years it's definitely going to get a little weird and kind of sink down somewhat. Yeah.
Yeah. And get all those creaks over time and things kind of settling in a little more.
Yeah. Well, it can't help when these big trucks come through the neighborhood and shake the foundation. Like I feel the whole house shaking occasionally. That's probably not good.
No, I couldn't imagine, dude. No way.
Yeah. Well, we're getting off track. I'm tired. I'm
Just
tired.
a little bit.
So fun fact about me over the last 2 days since I've been starting this project. I haven't been able to sleep very well. I keep waking up every 2 hours in the middle of the night, like just waking up and be like, yeah, I need to get this done. And then I'm like, wait, it's like 2 a.m. Go back to bed.
Yeah. Lay your little head down,
like
man.
My head is just like, whatever. It sucks. I hope I can get some sleep tonight. I probably will, but
hopefully. There's always that point where it's just almost pure exhaustion throughout your whole day. You usually end up sleeping.
Absolutely.
At some point, whether it's a week away, 2 weeks away, you have a day.
Yeah. The next 2 days I'm just going to take off because that's my normal weekend anyway, is Monday, Tuesday. So just just try to chill, because I know I've got a lot of very busy stretches, 3 to 4 days at a time coming up where it's like, 9 hours. And then one day is going to be like 12 hours. Just I got a lot coming up.
It's a lot of work, man.
And then in between then, there's editing during the week when the band's not there. Let's try not to jump into that yet. That's our next topic is stuff around that. But to finish this stuff off, materials that I think people should stay away from, I think foam is something that everybody thinks it's cool. Like, it looks cool, but foam does like nothing. It might reduce a little bit of flutter, and that's it. Honestly. Yeah. It's
I've
really
got some 2-inch panels I use that do well, like better than the bare wall I had. But I think even deeper than that would be like those thin 1-inch panels that you can get on for like $60 for like 100. Those did like absolutely nothing. They did like nothing. But they look good. I have some as like a stylistic thing.
They look great, but they do nothing.
They don't do anything. Not at all. Definitely something more than an inch. I feel like if you're going to go foam, at least get something thick.
Yeah, I just don't get foam. Just don't.
Yeah, if you cannot, don't.
Just buy the right material. I mean, you're going to have to DIY it, but if you want it to not cost an arm and a leg, because this stuff is marked up a ton. But if you just get the raw materials for, panels, you can make stuff for like 30-ish bucks a panel.
Yeah.
So
it's like
worth it.
$250 for a box of 6, and then like $1.89 per 3 feet or whatever.
That means you could trap your corners for, like, what's 8 times 3? $240.
24.
$240 you can trap your corners. It's just going to take you a little bit of effort.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I don't know. Yeah. You get the experience, the thrill of the build, as one would say.
Yeah, well, I think younger me was like, I don't need that shit. That's expensive. I don't need to waste money. But older me is like, I probably would have made more money and had less frustration over time, because my mixes probably would have translated better, faster back then, right?
Totally.
If I could actually hear what I was doing a bit better. Although I do think there's something
difference.
Yeah, although I do think there's something to be said about just knowing your space and knowing your speakers and stuff like that. But giving yourself the best possible chance to know that is the ideal way.
Don't have to second guess yourself all the time or make 100 trips to the car.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I would bring up for this topic would be Sonarworks, which I recently got, which is what this little microphone, you're not going to be able to see it, but they will. This little microphone was for. I measured my room with this. My monitors were making a bunch of weird noises, and I was, standing in different spots in my room to capture it, and it was tracking where I was in the room in real time just by the sound, which was insane.
That's amazing.
And I captured 2 different profiles. The second one sounds good, and it basically makes a custom EQ curve for your room that flattens your monitors out. And I will tell you, I fucking hated it at first.
No shit. What about it?
It just sounded dark and weird, but the more I listened to music through it, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And then I turned it off and I would listen to just my normal monitors, and by comparison, they're just shrill and they're super high-endy. They're Yamahas, right? So there's a ton of high-end, very taxing. And then I turn it back on and it's like I can hear everything, but my ears aren't bleeding. And
totally different.
Yeah. Interesting.
Did you have to on the controls on the back of your monitors? I don't know if you have those. I feel like you do.
I do. Yeah.
Did you have to flatten those, or is that just something you did preemptively?
I did. I had them flat for a while when I had 5 inches. And then when I upgraded to the HS8s, which I was also using at a studio that I was working at, I ended up, just because the way my monitors are, they're right up against the walls, right? Like I don't have the space to have them far. So I did use the room control on them. I took away, there's a -4 dB curve on the bottom end. And then because Yamahas are so fucking bright and they hurt my ears, I just reduced the high end so I could listen to them for longer. And I just mixed with that as well for the last year, and I put out the best mixes I've done so far. So I don't think I did anything wrong. I was just listening to music through that, seeing what sounded the best, and I noticed that when I put in those settings, I was hearing the mid-range of music in a much more interesting way. Like I was noticing elements to songs that I really enjoyed that I hadn't noticed before.
Oh, there we go.
So I thought that was cool. But now with Sonarworks, it's like that all over again. It's just hearing things in a completely different way.
What did it end up doing to your? Was it like an EQ that it came with, like a plugin that it adjusts?
Yeah. So
what did it end up doing?
Let's see what it did. Calibration. So Okay, this is before. All right, so it scooped out some 100 hertz, 100 to 200. It scooped out some of that. It boosted from about 250 to 400, and then boosted a little bit more of that mid range down to 1K where it's flat, and then at like 3K it's got a little bit of a boost, then a little dip at 4K, and then at 5K it's got a little boost, and then a little dip at around there, and it kind of tapers off like that. But it's interesting. Yeah, you can tell where I had issues.
That's really cool.
You can tell where I had issues with my room, definitely.
At which point did you end up running Sonarworks? Was it when you had everything set up and done?
Yes. Yeah. Well,
okay.
When everything was up and the room sounded good, that's when you should do it. You shouldn't do it before. I think from what I read on reviews, it's actually silly to run it before you have any treatment, because your room is just wild at that point. Like, sure, it'll EQ some stuff out, but like,
is it really going to make a difference?
Yeah, I mean, it'll change how stuff sounds, but like, it's not going to change like flutter in your room, right? That stuff's still going to be there. So
you got to control that first.
Yeah, I got my room as controlled as I possibly could. Look, I could have put more panels. There's a big space. You can't really see it here, but there's 2 panels on each of the sidewalls. There's a big space in between them because I want to hang my guitars up, because that'll free up some floor space, right? So again, just working with the space that I have. If I really wanted to, I could have put an additional panel on each sidewall, which would have been great. And then
had to sacrifice.
Yeah, just a little bit. My ceiling is bare. I still need to figure out how to hang one of these from the ceiling. That's the next thing, right? Have a cloud.
You brought that to my attention too. I never thought about ceilings.
Oh yeah, I didn't until I kept reading that people were like, well, it's a big fucking wall basically that you don't have treated. I'm like, oh shit.
It makes total sense.
You're right, actually.
Is it the same thing, say with like hardwood or laminate bare floors? Is it probably a good idea to lay something down, like just carpet?
Yeah, carpet helps.
Carpet, okay.
Yeah.
I've got these weird, really dense, thin rugs that I laid out everywhere that I could.
Sure.
I don't know if it's actually doing anything, but just the bare floor was like, God, I don't know. That doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, something fun about here is Gene. You guys don't know Gene. I'm just saying that as if you know him. Gene is my best friend, and Gene is also the guy who owns this house. We've played in bands together, phenomenal musician. But that has nothing to do with what I'm saying. Gene wants to tear up the carpet here and just have the hardwood underneath exposed, which is cool. I'm like, okay, I got to get a big fucking rug for this room.
Yeah.
I got to move all my stuff for like a week, and then I got to get a big rug. But anyway, yeah, that'll be really fun.
I understand the want for the hardwood. It's very easy to clean.
Yeah. Well, at least I don't have to move.
Nicer.
At least I don't have to move the stuff off the walls.
This is true.
I don't think I have to move that. Maybe I'll have to lift up like one of the bottom bass strap or something. But again, I can just like stick that back on there. That's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Are your bass traps set up the same way as your panels with those hangers that have the teeth on them?
Yeah, except they have like a corner trap. They have a corner.
That's right.
They have a corner one, so yeah, it straddles the corner. And
that's cool.
Well, after the hardwood's in here, I'll get an area rug. I'm gonna have to remeasure the room with Sonarworks. It's gonna react differently.
Yep.
So that also is going to be a little sucky, but this is why.
How much was Sonarworks?
$300.
$300.
Yes.
Comes with the microphone, the whole package, the whole deal.
With the microphone and the software. Yep.
That's amazing. Right on.
Yep, it's good. I just have it on startup now, so it just affects all my audio on my computer. It also has headphone profiles, so it can flatten out your headphones as well. Like,
wow.
They just have profiles for pretty much all the big brands, and I just found my headphones, and they're flatter now. It's interesting. I'm not used to it, right? Because I'm used to these sounding a certain way. But
those must be just built-in settings, right? And you turn it on, and
just EQ curves that they've done. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool, huh?
It's fascinating. Oh yeah, that EQ curve I read to you before is the headphone EQ curve. Let's see what they did to my actual room. There's quite There's quite a bit more happening here. So before I had a big peak at like 150. So Sonarworks got that out, and there was a big dip at like a little under 100 to like maybe like 50, and Sonarworks put that back in. I had a big dip at like 300 for some reason. Sonarworks fixed that, like just things like that. The room had a lot of weird issues. There was a big boost at 10K, and I don't actually think that was my room as much as that was my monitors, because my monitors are fucking bright.
Yeah, that's kind of a surprise.
Yeah. I don't know if the computer will pick up the dinging that I just did. I hope not. because it just went
So
doo-doo-doo. Just did the ding stuff. Whoopsie.
My bad.
Maybe I shouldn't touch that during recording. But anyway, yes.
Would it be like would it just render it useless if you used Sonarworks? And I don't even know if this is possible, but to maybe set up treatment in a way that your room is flat, would Sonarworks be a way to help you dial that in?
Well, you could certainly see the problem areas in your room. Not like specific areas, but you can see the frequencies that are an issue, and that might give you a better idea of what to do to it.
Huh. I feel like that's where the science would come in, of knowing
oh yeah,
height and where things might be, and I don't know anything about that, so I'm probably way off, but
same. I don't earn the engineer part of audio engineer every day. I just make stuff sound good, and I edit stuff. And occasionally I can do technical things, but
totally.
No, I think most of us are more along the lines of creative types rather than
yes,
as technically minded as the older engineers of the last couple of generations were.
Yeah.
But okay, that's room treatment. I think you got anything else there? That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, that's it.
All right.
Roof, ceiling, walls, materials, Sonarworks.
Get the good
budget.
shit. Sonarworks.
Yep.
Yeah. So, speaking of budget, the next thing I thought we would talk about, since it's something that I'm going through with a band that I'm working with, is how to record an album. What is the best way to approach recording an album, and what's the right processes to take, and what are the correct steps to take to make sure things turn out the way that you want?
Yeah. It can get very overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a couple albums throughout my, I guess you can call it career. This is what I do. I don't know why. I don't know why I feel weird about calling it my career. It feels like I have this long spanning history, which I guess I do. I've been doing this in some capacity for about 10 years, but
totally,
really only in a professional capacity for the last couple of years.
I guess it's a good place to start it as a career.
Yeah. Anyway, I've done a couple albums, but it's been a while. The last time I did an album was about 3 or 4 years ago.
Damn.
And that was with the same band. So I've done EPs since then, but like full albums are a bit more.
Okay.
Right? So this band came back to me and they wanted to do it. Last time they did it very loose. Nothing was to a click. They just played in the room together and it was cool. And then they overdubbed some stuff. It worked really well. This time they were like, all right, we want to do it like how you like to do stuff. We want to do it like the studio way. So,
yeah.
Which again, very cool with me. So,
which would you prefer? What is better for you?
My way.
Between the two. Yeah.
My way, because I think it turns out tighter and it turns out better. And I have more control. I think audio engineering is all about control, right?
Yes.
It's all about just being able to correct any minor mistake or have like the absolute tiniest being able to control just the tiniest thing in every single mix, right?
Yeah, of course.
I like that.
Recording and everything.
Yeah. So we just finished our pre-pro. They are a 2-piece band. They're kind of experimental. It's like grindcore, black metal, doom metal. And then just like ambient noise. They do a lot of interesting shit, right?
That's cool.
It's heavy for the most part, but it's interesting. So we started off with just basic pre-pro. They knew the tempos that they wanted to play to. They had the tempos mapped out, and they came in, and I said, okay, let's just get the bassist to play to a click, and we'll just have this there so the drummer can play to this, right? I think that's the first step in doing an album, is pre-production. And now if it was another band, pre-production would also include writing, like the producing part of it, right? These guys have basically produced themselves. They're coming to me more to just get tracked and then mixed. These songs are really put together. They've done their work on these.
That's amazing.
But for a lot of bands that come to me, they might come to me with 1 or 2 riffs, and we just figure it out where it's going to go, and we put it together. And so that's usually the first stage. That's pre-pro, right? These are demos nobody's going to hear. These are just to get your ideas out and get things that the drummer can track to, right? He has a guitar with a click in his ear.
Maybe you request the band bring things like to be prepared. Is that like or do you just pick up with what they have? Say things like keys or tempos.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you would like them to be more prepared, but you just kind of deal with what you're given each project.
Totally.
Right? Like this band came in pretty prepared. It would have been nice if they did their own pre-pro too, but they didn't, so that's okay.
Yeah. You just take what you're given.
Yeah, you take what you're given.
Take it and run.
Yeah. They're more prepared than most bands, so like I'll take it.
Yes.
So anyway, that's the first stage. You know, you get all your creative decisions out of the way. So there's no last minute things like we should have done this after the drums are already down, because you can't change that,
man.
right?
Yeah.
So it's good to get all the creative decisions out of the way first.
Absolutely.
And then this coming weekend, we're going on to the second stage, which I think should be drums. I think drums are the first real instrument you should lay down. Mainly just
Agreed.
because I can track vocals or bass or guitar to a click track just fine. But then if I have a drummer play to it, it's kind of hard to get the drums to sit well over top of something that already exists. Like, it's much easier to... things can sound good to a click track, and then when you put drums behind it, even if they're like quantized, it can sound off still. There's
it can
something
be wonky.
just because drummers have a feel, right? So like,
yep.
So I think it's important to get the drums first.
That
So
makes sense.
We're gonna record these drums. We're doing one day of like 4 hours where he's just gonna come in, get set up. We'll get tones. We might even track one song, right? We'll just make sure everything's cool, and then the next 2 days are gonna be 8-hour sessions each, and we're just gonna blow through the album.
Cool.
Yeah, it'll be really, really fun and really intense, and I'm gonna want to sleep the whole weekend.
Hopefully, you actually do.
Yeah, maybe my brain will let me get sleep this time. But so that's that weekend. I think that's the next stage in how you should do an album. After drums, I really think you should move on to, well, some people would be like, okay, we gotta go, let's get the guitars tracked. Like, hold the fuck up. Those drums are not edited. So the week after that, I'm gonna sit down and edit every single drum and pull up a drum mix. Get stuff sounding pretty good already. Pre-mix some stuff. Pre-mixing is something I also wanted to mention, because that's not something I've done in a lot of other projects. I'll do it for tones here and there, but for a project as big as this, and now that I'm as experienced as I am, I know that if I don't pre-mix, I'm going to just be staring at this huge fucking mountain of work by the time we're done.
Oh, yeah.
So not only am I editing now, I'm pre-mixing. I'm getting stuff to sound pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Just, before we move on to the next stage. And that's when the bassist is going to come in and he's going to lay down bass. And now, since it's just a two-piece, this is bass and drums, we're doing this thing where the bass is going to be 3 tracks, actually. It's going to be one bassier track up the middle, and then it's going to be 2 out to the sides that are distorted, like this typical kind of distortion that he plays with. So it gives us the width of a normal rock or metal production. It's wide, it's big sounding, right?
Yeah.
But so it'll take a lot of time. That's another weekend of work, right? Where it's
totally.
And they can only work on the weekends. So
thankfully, editing on string instruments can be easier than drums in some cases.
Yeah, I can get that editing done the day of while we're doing it. It's not like with drums where it takes quite a bit of time. So it's you get good takes, you comp them together, and then you edit on your own.
Yeah. Yep. Way better.
But then the week after that, I'm pre-mixing the instruments and getting them to rock with the drums, and then they're coming back for vocals, and we'll probably have a couple weekends here and there of just getting vocals done. And once one of the songs is done vocal-wise, then I can really get a good solid mix down for the basic drum, the basic instrumental with vocal sound. And then they have weirder songs that are more experimental with noise and ambience and stuff, and I'll deal with those after, one step at a time.
Yeah.
But
those can be kind of like extras. You can get like a good foundation mix, so to speak. And then these things that come along that are different, you can kind of add them to taste.
Yeah.
Like as you see fit.
But that's how I would go about approaching something as monumental as an album, because it's so much work. It is so much work, and my head is spinning right now. But I know I can do it because I've done it before. It's just my process has gotten more in depth over the years. I've been working. Last year I worked on mostly singles and one EP, which was cool. Each single is a new mix, right? So I was just experimenting and just trying new things and learning new techniques. And
you grow over time.
Yeah, and those techniques are great. The problem is they're time consuming, but they're fucking good sounding. So I just have to put in the work now, which is fine.
Totally. I 100% agree with you, dude. And especially on editing. I did a big project where I waited to edit. And I was kicking myself so hard. I was like, okay, cool, we're done recording. I thought like the hard part's over. And then I had to sit here and edit for like 4 weeks because it was just so many guitar layers, MIDI drums, and plus revisions that he wanted to do. We didn't stop making the creative decisions till like
Oh, dude. Yeah.
way late in adding synths here and doing things here. It was absurd.
Yeah.
So it was constant editing. That's all I felt like I did was edit. And then finally got good mixes, and then he'd want to retract stuff. And I didn't really have much of a process. But now with that hindsight, I can definitely say with projects and EPs I've done as of late, I will edit everything that I can on the fly and then spend like a whole few days just chopping and moving things to get it totally right.
Get it exactly how you want it to be before you even start mixing. Or at least, you know, now even though I'm pre-mixing, it's like I'm getting that element that I'm about to pre-mix completely edited before I start doing that. It's got to be like, and then I'm going to print it. I'm going to just get all those cuts in the audio out of the way. I'm just going to save a new version of the project and commit to it. Because all those little clips actually slow your project down over time.
Oh, no kidding?
Yeah, it's better just to glue them and be done with them when you're just commit.
I never knew that.
Also, it's really easy. Have you noticed how like a lot of DAWs that have a snap feature, like especially since we use Reaper for this kind of stuff, have you noticed how like if you do a lot of edits, it'll snap to like a weird edit by accident? Rather than imagine that, but like times 1,000 because drums are lots of tiny little edits everywhere. It's like it can look like it's on the grid and it might just snap to something not, and you'll be listening and be like, that's off. Why is that off?
Yeah. Oh, that's a pain in the ass.
Huge pain in the ass. Yeah. Just something to be aware of.
Oh, totally. Yeah. The more you know.
Yeah.
Can you just turn that magnet at the top off, that snap function, and then you have free roam, or will it still snap to other tracks that you've sliced in that area?
You can turn it off. Yeah. But my point is if you're trying to snap it to a bar and it snaps to a clip that looks like it's on the bar, but it's not, over time, that clip's going to be more and more off. And you're going to just start noticing, like, this feels wrong.
Yeah, you know something's going on here.
Yeah, especially if you're, like, duplicating it, right? Like, it'll just get weirder and weirder as it goes on.
Totally. That's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it happens more than I would like to admit.
It's always the little stuff, dude. Definitely.
Yeah. It hurts, but...
There were times when I was doing an album with just a shit ton of tempo changes. The band just had a feel. And they would change temp. What's that?
I love that stuff. That's how I write music now, is lots of tempo changes and ramp up and ramp downs and tempo. I like when music moves like that. It's interesting.
Yes, it is fun. I'm growing to like tempo changes more and more in my like natural writing and playing. Yeah. But I didn't know much about implementing tempo changes and how maybe speeding one up halfway through the song is going to affect the rest, and where I should have made cuts to isolate spots per track. Dude, and I completely mangled like 2 whole songs. We had to come back and re-record guitars and drums. Like just redo everything. Cause I was like, I came in real macho thinking, oh, tempo changes, easy. Like, I'm just going to make the tempo change. But all of a sudden, everything was like irreversibly fucked up. And I did not know where to go.
You got to do that before you track. That's a part of pre-pro.
Totally.
You got to have that all mapped out. Yeah.
It's always in hindsight. Yeah. Like, we got to do this like early next time, not during.
Well, after I do pre-pro, I also like to send a copy to the musicians with a click to be like, practice to this. Like,
there we go.
Like
that's cool.
That's also just smart. So there's no confusion over parts, right? Like it's here, practice to it. You can't say that the click is throwing you off because you practice to it. And if you didn't, it's like, well, that's kind of on you. It's going to make my life annoying. But that's just deal with it.
Yeah.
That is one of the
downsides.
Make it work
over time.
Yeah, it's one of the downsides of doing flat rates, but also like I just like flat rates for most projects because it's less stressful for the client. And I'm more concerned about, are they having a good time generally, you know?
And if you're priced fairly too, you know you're getting your worth. It can work favorably for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if you find you're getting screwed with your flat rates, and then it's just like, well, raise them. If you think you're spending too much time for that flat rate, it's like fucking raise them up. Raise the rate. Do the math. You know, time how long it takes you to do stuff, and be like, what's fair for this? That's what I did. I base mine off of $50 an hour now, and it works fine. I raised my prices.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I haven't had any complaints, which has been cool. I've had a couple people say cool to it, which always feels good, you know?
It does feel good. It's kind of surprising and kind of exciting. Yeah. Very exciting, really.
Well, last time I raised my rates, I got a lot of pushback. So I was expecting some, and I've gotten none, which feels really good. That means I'm probably doing something right.
Absolutely. Yeah. More than likely.
Yeah. Well,
surprising at those...
You raised yours as well, didn't you?
Yes. I also kind of just went to flat rate too. I was going to do hourly for a while, but I got almost zero response from that. No one wanted to do anything on an hourly.
Bro, it scares people off. That's especially these, because we work in an extreme genre for the most part. I mean, I do other things other than metal, but a majority of my stuff has been heavy over the last couple of years. And those heavy bands they're broke.
Yep.
Well, they're either broke or they're okay. All jokes aside, I played in the hardcore scene for a while, right? So something I noticed about hardcore is this sense of unity, right? That's there's even songs, 25 to Life, Strength Through Unity, which is goofy because it's from the 90s, but hardcore is all about this kind of attitude where you treat everybody with respect, and something about the hourly to them, it feels like too business-like. Like they want you to treat them like a person, and
totally.
When it's like all business, that throws them off. Because like if you think about how the punk scene works, it's not really about business. It's about supporting each other,
making cool music, enjoying your company.
Well, but supporting each other, right?
Yes.
Like I mean
that's what it is like here too. I mean, I've had people wonder why I'm charging so much to make music.
Yeah,
when really it's a fair rate. But
have they heard your mixes? That's why you're charging that much.
I mean, I wouldn't have said that number. Usually the number that I would first quote people at like a couple of months ago is significantly less than what I know I'm worth. And I'm still wondering why they're wondering that I'm asking for $300.
Well, some of that is like some of the pushback I got when I finally raised my rate to something respectable, when I went from I jumped from whatever it was, 20 or 30 to 40 an hour, right?
Yeah.
And that's also when I just started going on my own and doing this completely freelance, just out of my house.
Totally.
I did get some pushback, and some people were like, "That's too much, man." It's like, yeah, but you were used to coming to me for dirt cheap. I can't do that.
No.
But that's why they get weird, is because they're just like, that's how they value you. They value you as the cheap producer because that's all that you've charged.
Here to help the scene, and the first thing I think of, which is kind of maybe a little left field, is we're not charity cases for the local scene or your band or anything of that nature. We're trying to run a business and thrive off this, even if it's very minimally to where we could barely survive. That's the goal.
That's the dream, is to just not worry about money.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to approach that. But, there's ups and downs, right? When I say not worry about money, I don't mean be rich. I mean not worry about money in that, hey, rent's going to be paid at the end of the month. So
that's totally fine.
I'm going to be saving a little bit of money this month. If you have that, you're already winning. You're ahead of most people in this industry.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Takes a long time. I think before you were saying upwards of a decade.
For some people, yeah.
At least in your experience, yeah.
Some people,
from others as well.
Some people get it real quick. Some people don't. I mean,
yep.
It can be
late
luck.
Bloomers of sorts.
It can be luck. It can be a ton of things, right? For me, I wasn't even really mentally ready to be as responsible as I am now with it.
It's hard.
I had to grow up.
It's a very weird culture shock.
I had to grow the fuck up.
Yeah.
I had to grow up, and back then I wasn't really willing to pour money into it too much. And now it's like, okay, well, now I understand if I put money into this, I get money back out. So I absolutely should be putting money into this.
And even time, really.
Yeah, time. Well, I was putting so much time in before, but I was just not getting paid much. I was also working under other people, and that's fine, but you're not really ever going to make good money working under other people. You're going to make good money doing this for yourself. Yeah. And again,
it's
good money.
True.
Good money is quite simply, I'm not worried about, do I have enough money for groceries this month? That's good money in my eyes when it comes to music, is you're secure. That's
Agreed.
All.
Yeah.
Everything
doesn't
else
need to be 6 figures or even upper 5. I don't care.
Everything else is a win. After your home situation, after your housing situation and your food situation is secure, that anything above that is you're doing it. You're making it happen.
Totally. It takes a while. It takes a lot of, like you said, maturing and growing up.
Yeah.
A lot of introspective and self-reflection, really, to put yourself in a position where you can begin to price yourself fairly and actually effectively communicate that what you feel and what you know and what you possess is worth this much, and that is why I'm asking for X amount.
Yeah, I for this last project, I asked for 1,000 a song, and that felt like naughty. That felt wrong.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
I do the math. I was asking for a full song before. I was asking for 800, and that was for like everything, like a band, right? Like a band coming to me and I help them write, and we track all the instruments. Like that was 800, and that was 20 hours of 40 an hour, which is pretty standard for tracking a full song,
That's
making sure
pretty
it's done right. So 1,000 is just the same thing, but 50 an hour. It feels naughty, but really, like it's not. That's the fine wage.
It's not that bad.
No, it's not bad at all. It's not bad at all.
I think that's very important. I feel like to know how long it might take you. I haven't calculated down exactly because I feel like throughout recording with other people, there are some kind of variables.
Always.
And I don't want to let myself down, but what I'll usually do is just divide the number. The last project was 600 a song by the amount of hours I spent working on it. And then that'll give me my hourly per that project. And I want to get to a point where I can accumulate enough to get an average and then actually maybe try and kind of develop a timeline for what I can do, because it's very broad right now as to how long some of these projects can take.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the risk you run with an hourly project, and I'm not going to say my hourly for every project, even though it's at 50 an hour at that flat rate, right? Like it translates to that. It doesn't always mean I'm making 50 an hour. Like very often projects will take a little longer, right? And that's fine.
Totally.
But if that means I'm making anywhere from 40 to 50 an hour on a project, am I really going to complain about that?
No, that's pretty cool. That's a good rate.
That's fine. And I'm more than willing to take some extra time to do things correct because I care about it. I know clients see that and they really like that. Like I'm not here just to earn a paycheck. If I wanted a paycheck, I would have gone into finance or some shit. Like I'm here to make cool art. And I'm really, really emotionally invested in the projects that I'm getting. I'm not just doing them just because. I mean, I haven't had a project that was like a just because project in a while. Everything that I've had has been pretty cool. If I do want to do something just
because, go ahead.
Everything I've had recently has been pretty cool. A lot of those projects that were less desirable, that weren't artistically fulfilling, they died off after I raised my prices a certain amount. Those were the people that complained, were the people that I just didn't really like working with anyway.
Yeah, they come and go, man. Yeah. I'm running into the same thing here too. And it wasn't a significant price jump, but even on the topic of doing projects just because, if I want to do something just because, I usually would just make my own song and just fuck around in my own time. Yeah. That way I'm not like overdoing my welcome on someone else's. And granted, I haven't done tons of hourlies, but when we're looking at projects that are upwards of hundreds of hours, multiple hundreds of hours of just recording and editing and retracking.
Fuck that shit, bro.
That's where it gets kind of extreme, and where I would start kicking myself in the ass wishing that I was doing hourly, but I don't want to of course I'm not going to press halfway through a project that I'm doing anything. No budget implications at all.
You also should take the work that you can get to some extent, right? Because
that was kind of the mentality too, this is like a good first project, so I'm going to take this and
I'm not above that either. Like, I have my preferred rate, but if I like a band's music and they seem like cool guys, like, I might, negotiate a little bit with them. It's totally. I don't like when people. I don't fuck with people who are like, yo, you're gonna give me a deal though, right? I don't like that.
No, dude.
But if I ask their budget, and I notice there's tension about money, and they're thinking about something else, I might come down a little bit. But it has to be my idea,
Oh yeah.
If I feel okay about it, then it's fine. I'm not gonna get bothered by it. But I don't letting other people talk me down. It's like, what do you think this is? Like, what do you take me for? I'm not
Back
a grocery
to the
store.
Charity case thing.
You're not bringing a coupon in, Fuck that shit. No, I don't.
Totally. It gets like that sometimes. Like you said, there's like a unity and like a brotherhood in a lot of musical scenes, and you kind of standing outside of doing it for the 12 case of beer or whatever I've heard go around. People don't enjoy that. They don't want to spend that much money on something that should be a part of like a union. You're together. You should be doing this together kind of thing. And that's, I don't know.
Well, the
expectation of that makes me cringe a little inside.
The money they give me is a symbol of the respect they have for what I do. And in turn, it makes me respect their project.
Yes.
You know what I mean? if somebody is
100%.
talking me down and trying to get me to a super cheap rate or saying they can't do it, it's like, that's fine. But like that unity that I find in this situation, since, you know, at the end of the day, this is business. I try to make it not business-like, but I do need to be paid, right? Like, that's where the mutual respect there is, where I still get the feeling that I would get from the hardcore scene, where it's like two bands that like each other and you're just friends with the other dudes. I become really good friends with all the people who entrust me, pay me properly for the project, because I just get really invested. I really want to make sure I do their shit right if I'm getting paid properly. And
especially on like something like a whole album.
Yeah. Well, and again, those people who are willing to spend that money, in my experience, generally, their music's better. Because they just, I don't know, they just take it more seriously. They put more time into it. It's clearly more interesting.
Yeah. If you're looking at spending thousands of dollars, the music should be crafted pretty well. Or maybe they're coming to you to help them produce that record or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Producing is another, I mean, once I produce for a band, it's like, that's the easiest way to gain respect, is because that's what I think is my best strength, is producing, right? Like, that personally, I just feel like that's my best strength. If a band comes in with a like half-formed idea and I produce it with them, like I've not had a band come in that was unsatisfied. Like, they're usually extremely stoked. There have been bands that come in to track with me and I give suggestions and they just kind of blow it off, right? Like, I've had like in the whole time I've been doing this, like 2 bands that were kind of like that. That's fine. That's, you know, they do whatever they want.
It happens.
Yeah, it does happen. Sometimes they don't want you
it's their music, really.
Yes, yeah. If they're happy, that's cool. But But I think everybody in the room, including myself, gets a lot more excited about a project when it's more collaborative.
It's fun. There's like a magic to it.
Yeah, yeah. And it blossoms into something that none of us expected, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I love that. That moment of like striking up on something that's just like audible gold. You're like, oh, it's such a good high.
Oh yeah, like when you're with the band and you're like, why don't we try this? And they're like, I don't know, man. Like, no, like that's not how we had it. I'm like, no, let's try this real quick. And I move some stuff around and I do this. I was like, hey, how's this? And I play it and they're like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah.
I love it.
Like, yes, that's what I mean. That's the best moment.
The whole room lights up.
Yeah, that's the best moment. Like, it happened today with the Earthworm dudes. The drummer was here laying down a couple of little percussive things on an electronic pad. And I had an idea for how because he was like drumming on his leg, just along with like what he would do on the real drums. I was like, how about, since he played this low note here before it transitions into the next part, we have this little reverse swell going into it. And then you stop the drums like literally 1 beat early. He's like, I don't know, man. Like, I just want to make sure we don't mess anything up. I was like, no, try it. And he drummed along to it and he stopped and he's like, oh, I see what you mean. Like, yeah. Like, yeah. Like, it signifies, like, one, it makes that low note that he plays after really hit. And then it also signifies, like, hey, this part's changing. Like, we've got you in this groove for, like, almost a minute, and then it just slightly changes, and it just snaps the listener back to life. And they're like, oh, shit.
Ooh,
it wakes you
that's
up, right?
cool.
Yeah, so...
It's those moments, dude.
Yeah, those little, it can be literally something as tiny as that, or it can be, you know, sometimes it's just like, why don't we go to this chord? Or I'm like, how about this riff? And they're like, yeah, that's good, great. Like, it feels good.
Totally.
Man. Feels good to do that stuff.
I really enjoy it when someone's standing. Oh, go ahead.
We got so sidetracked.
Oh, totally. It's only been like 30 minutes of it.
Nah, it's fine. Whatever. Nah. It was a good talk.
Totally.
What were you going to say, though? We're going to wrap up here in a sec because we're about out of an hour.
Man.
But...
I really enjoy when someone's behind me. It's very rare that people are here while I'm mixing, but I get to a point, and I don't know if they actually hear, but they'll say, like, man, whatever you just did sounds great.
Yeah.
And I look back, and they got, like, the biggest, shittiest smile on their face. They're just, like, the happiest looking dude on earth right now. I'm like, dude, that's amazing. Like, their music's, like, making them feel a certain way still.
Yeah. I don't like having people here when I mix, personally. No. I feel like they make me focus on things that I'm not ready to focus on yet at that moment.
Yeah,
it's like
they'll start pointing stuff out.
It's like I'm working on the drums. I'm working on like a kick drum to start off a mix, and they're like, "Man, that snare is just really annoying." I'm like, "I know, I'm not there yet." Like, I'm working on one thing. So to me, it's like I'd rather just get the mix done. We agree on some references. I think that's smart. Like, hey, this is the direction we're kind of going for, right? but then I just get the mix done and then I send it to them and then I'm like, hey, like it's pretty much done. Like listen to it and like let's tell me what you think would bring it home, right? Like
Yep.
That's the best way to go about it, I think.
Agreed. Almost every time I've had someone around for mixing, it is a lot more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
Yeah.
But something I got distracted earlier, but something I would encourage you. God, we both got distracted today.
Just a little bit.
Something I would encourage you to do, since you're trying to measure just based on your clients, measure how long it takes you to do a song from start to finish, just you, because that's what I based it on at first. And I like thought, okay, since I had experience with clients, it might take a little longer here and there, but just measure that and see what it is. And then that's how
that's a good idea.
That's your best case scenario, right?
Totally.
And then you can think of your worst case scenario.
I never thought of that.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see what it is.
Yeah.
For me, it's like writing a instrumental. I do that in about like 2 to 4 hours, probably 2 to 3, right?
Totally.
Like I think of a riff and then like if I'm working, I can noodle on stuff all day, but if I'm like intent on like I'm sitting down and writing a song, if I'm getting paid by a client to write a song, I'm like, I know it's going to take me about 2 to 4 hours. That's typical of me. Tracking guitars, an hour. That's all it's going to take me. Tracking bass, less than an hour, right? Like
pretty simple.
Yeah, I know myself and I know how long that stuff takes me. But
I feel like I'm in the same ballpark ish. Yeah, I could probably. I like to mix the same day for some. It's just I have the momentum and I usually just continue with it, but I'll make changes throughout the week.
Sure.
I'd say 12 to 16 hours probably.
Mixing
overall.
the same day adds a lot of time. It definitely does.
It does.
Because there's no like formula for how long mixing should take. Some pros are able to do it in 2 to 3 hours. Other pros take a couple. They take a lot longer, and doesn't mean they're one of their. They can both be equally as good. If maybe the guy who takes longer can be better. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. It's like, how long does it take you?
It's process.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. Maybe a mix is like 5 to 8 hours. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Maybe a little longer than that sometimes. Like it's so hard to judge because depending on the song, like.
And what its
more
particular
attention.
needs are.
Yeah. And
can add up.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll probably start including clip gain automation in my editing phase because that's something I did before I did my last mix and it took a long time. So I think I'm just going to get little automation stuff like that out of the way before I even mix.
We go.
Just like, if I have a vocal track, chop up the vocal track and just make it all look roughly the same,
totally
gain, make the waves all look about the same height, just so it's somewhat automated together.
Yeah, I've heard some good about that.
Yeah, well, it just makes it hit your compressor in a more even manner, right?
Very consistent.
So then your compressor is not working as hard, and you can use the compressor more for the tone rather than just like, it's. Well, also
That's
it's just
cool.
like. Also, if your compressor slammed perfectly at one part and then the next part is too quiet, it's not going to get enough gain reduction, right? So like and same thing if it's even louder at the next part, it's going to get too squashed. Like that's why it's good to just automate that stuff. So you can just set the compressor where it sounds good once basically, and it'll sound good the whole song.
Totally. Hey, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I've heard people doing something like that with R Vocals or R bass.
Yeah.
I never messed with them too much. It kind of felt wrong to me for some reason.
Yeah.
But
same principle. They also have
makes sense.
They have vocal leveler and bass leveler. I think that might be what you were thinking of.
Yeah. I think R Vocals, that might be compression, but it is from waves. I think it just helps with.
Yeah, vocal leveler and bass leveler. It automates gain, so it tries to do what I just said, where it tries to make the vocals the same gain the whole time. It's somewhat accurate. Cool. It's somewhat accurate. I mean, I don't know if it's better than doing it by hand, but.
I would rather do it by hand just for the knowing in my head, but awesome premise, like great idea.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely good. All right, we're going to wrap this up because I need some sleep.
It's bedtime.
My man's. What did we talk about today? We talked about treatment, we talked about how to record an album, and then we just went off on tangents for
budget for like 20 minutes.
Budget, yeah, I guess that was budget. And we just talked more about money and I don't know. Just stuff. We're back, guys. We're back in action. And
totally. Hello, hello.
Hello, and this week was bound to be sloppy because we took a week off.
Yeah.
So,
I was telling Seamus before, it felt like we've been gone for ages, even though it's been 2 weeks.
it feels like it's been a lifetime for me because it's just like 7 straight days of just assembling stuff and mounting stuff and it's just so
Going
much
hard.
just so much work. And then I got it done with 1 day to spare before the band came for pre-pro. So I had 1 day off before it was time to get back into work.
Oh, dude.
So these next 2 days off are much needed. I've been working very hard for a while. So
yeah, definitely relax. Especially after you get back from a break and you just instantly jump into hammer time.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of like a shock there, like a shock wave or an afterglow of sorts.
Yeah, because the winter was really, really quite slow for me. And now it's
kind of where I'm at, dude.
Now it's full force. Yeah, but your winter didn't slow down, so now you're just having a slow period during the whatever, early spring.
Yes.
Which is fine. Look, dude, everybody has slow periods. I was even listening to one of the URM podcasts today with a guy who's worked with like Thrice and like other huge bands, and he's like,
oh, cool.
And he's like, you just got to get used to that. You're not just gonna have a constant stream of work. Like some months you're gonna be super busy, some months you're not gonna have anything. And that's a trip. That's a big guy saying that, right? So like, yeah, absolutely.
When I envisioned going and doing things like this full time, or really at all, I always pictured just consistent.
I think it depends.
Maybe I focus on that too much.
I think it just depends on who you are and the type of projects you take on. And location certainly matters, and
genre maybe even.
I don't know. Like Joey Sturgis and Will Putney are constantly busy. They're highly in demand and they're constantly busy. But like, do they make more money than the guy who's been around for 30 years longer than them, who recorded 20 years longer than them? No, there was more money in the industry back then.
Yeah,
so, I don't know.
That's cool to think about.
Yeah, I've always been a proponent, like I can't even think of the word. I'm not tired. I like the expression work smarter, not harder. So if it means you can get paid more for less work overall, cool. And then in my mind, that even though you're doing less work, that work probably turns out better because you're able to give more attention to it and you're not so burnt out.
Definitely.
But also
piling stuff up leads to burnout.
Yeah, but also, I'm an audio engineer and I'm a whore for money, so whatever you got, I'll take it.
Right now I'm the same way, dude.
I'll burn myself out silly. Give me all your projects. I want to work.
Yeah. I just want something to do again.
Yeah, well, I've got plenty to do, and I got more on the horizon after that. This is the first time in my career so far where I've had to tell people I'm booked for a month out, and I'm not lying. I just have too much work to do to focus on other things right now.
Hey, that's cool, man.
It's interesting. Very interesting.
How the turns have tabled, or whatever Michael Scott says.
Yeah, it does mean work is going to pile up a little bit on the other side, which is also cool. And it means that I have, hopefully that trend just continues. And then maybe eventually I'll be 2 months out. And maybe this is wishful thinking. Maybe I'll go back to another slow period. Who knows? But that would be very cool.
We'll get there when we get there.
Who the fuck knows? I'm not going to jinx it. Knock on wood. Yeah.
Yes.
But
fingers are crossed for you.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, thank you for joining us for another wonderful episode. Was this episode 10? Let me check. I'm actually going to check.
I think.
Yeah. I think we've done 10 weeks of this now. Because we took that 1 week off.
That's cool.
This is episode 10, my guy.
Congrats.
Right there. And what are you saying congrats to me for? Congrats to us.
Congrats, everybody. Thank you to the followers.
That helps, yeah. All 2 of you. No, I think we have like 15 or something like that. Well, whoever it is, truly appreciate people who are tuning into this stuff.
Yes.
Anybody new who's tuning in, we truly appreciate you as well. As always, check out Andrew and I's portfolios. I'm going to link both of those. I am working on an album right now for a band called Earthworm Von Doom. Their previous album is actually included in my portfolio, so maybe check them out. They're a cool blend of like grindcore, black metal, doom. They've got an interesting blend going on. Andrew, what are you up to right now? I'm going to have to listen to that. Yeah, please. What are you working on right now? I know you said you're a little slow, but you do have like 1 or 2 projects happening, right?
I've got another project that is starting from a band called American Metal Project.
Yeah.
We did a single like a month ago, I want to say.
Came out
recently released.
Came out really fucking good. Came out real good, my mans.
Thank you. I was very proud of that one. That was a very fun song.
Sounded very good.
Amazing people.
Yeah.
They came prepared. They knew their shit. They were respectful, great people. Definitely check them out. American Metal Project.
How are they? How was I know you had to talk to them about financials again. How'd that go?
It went great, dude.
Excellent, man. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, easy conversation. It was more just like shooting the shit and talking with them to just end with an okay.
My man, you have found clients that are gonna stick with you for a long time. I think with those guys.
It seems like it.
They seem like the right type of people. So that's good. That's very, very good, my man.
I'm very happy about it.
Yeah.
And I'm making some friends too. That's
what it's all about.
It's much needed.
I love the Earthworm guys. I recorded their last album. I've known these guys for years. We're just hanging out. We keep getting distracted. We're just hanging out. We're like, do you remember that one YouTube video?
We haven't talked in so long.
Yeah, they're like, do you remember that YouTube video from 15 years ago? And then we just look up like, whatever it is, just the grape lady falling or whatever on the news or whatever it is. And we're just laughing our asses off. So
that's fun. That's awesome, dude.
It is like my role to be like, all right, guys, we got to get back to work.
Yeah, I know. It's great to get along with them like that, though.
Yeah. Trip was his name. One of the guys' names is Trip. It's Trip and Sam, and Trip was thanking me. He's like, well, thanks for like taking care of all like making sure we get this stuff done right. Just lets us focus on what we got to do. I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm here.
That's cool. Yep.
I'll curl up in the fetal position when you're not looking. That's why I'm here.
Oh no.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna end it. We went another 10 minutes by accident. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. See you later.
Thank you. Adios.